Want to learn how to gain massive loot with one of the most OP farming troops in the game? Watch now to find out. Welcome, my friends, to one of my favorite times of the year. I love Halloween. And with Halloween, we get the introduction of the spooky royal ghost. Now, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know that my absolute favorite farming troop is the Sneaky Goblin. I just absolutely love sneakies. They can get in there, get loot, get out. You can gain tons of loot in order to finish your walls, in order to finish your defenses. They're just absolutely amazing. But let's be honest, sometimes Sneaky Goblins get boring, and although I do like using other types of troops, the reality is whenever Royal Ghost comes around, I absolutely love this time of the year. Now let's just be truthful, Royal Ghosts are not as OP as Sneaky Goblins when it comes to farming, but they are a heck of a lot more fun to gain loot with than Sneaky Goblins are. With Sneaky Goblins, you have to worry about wall breakers, you can't get things that are deep inside the wall, but you can do all of that with Royal Ghosts. Now, some of you may think that when you're farming, you need to look for the biggest and the baddest base with tons of loot, 1.4 million in gold, 10 million in dark elixir, and that you need to spend all of your troops and all of your spells in order to gain all of the loot possible. And I'm not gonna lie, whenever I see a base like this, a lot of times I do that just because it's fun, not because it's efficient. If you're going to farm in the most efficient way possible, then you need to use Royal Ghosts very similar to how we use Sneaky Goblins in the most efficient manner. Now on this attack, we were able to get a ton of loot, and it was a ton of fun. But now, unless we have another army train for a backup, maybe this is our last army for the day, we're not able to go out and do any more looting, and as a result, we're not able to gain as much loot overall. So let's show you exactly how we do that. We use something called the raid quotient to determine how successful an attack was, and we're going to show you how to do that right now. Now, we're going to be using my Town Hall 13 today to actually farm on, because that's the base that I'm trying to level up quickly. But in reality, you can get Royal Ghosts at almost every Town Hall level, and so the attack strategy that we're going to use is going to be very similar. The spells that we're going to use is I like to take double haste and one invisibility. The haste is so that you can get the Royal Ghost in quickly into a base. The invisibility is for your heroes if you want to get your heroes into a specific part of the base. So let's go in with 2 full army camps and see exactly how much loot we can get. Now the key with looking at any base is you want to look for something that has full collectors. As you can see, this base has. It doesn't have millions of loot, but it does have a lot of loot that is easily accessible. Point number 2 is you want to make sure that you use as few troops as possible. Now the Royal Ghost is actually 8 troop space when the Sneaky Goblin is only 3 troop space, but the benefit that the Royal Ghost has over the Sneaky Goblin is that the Sneaky Goblin only stays invisible for 5 seconds, while the Royal Ghost stays invisible for 12 seconds. That gives you an added advantage, and on this raid, we were able to gain almost 1.2 million in resources using only 88 troop space for a raid quotient of 13,394. Now going back in for our second raid, we were able to find another base that has full collectors. Again, you want to ignore those storages that are in the middle. We're going to show you an attack a little bit later that has full storages, and the fallacy of thinking that with this strategy you can gain all of the loot in the storages unless they are easily accessible. You do not want to go after full storages. Now when you're using Royal Ghosts as opposed to using Sneaky Goblins, you want to spread around your Royal Ghosts in a manner to where they can hit more than one collector at one time if possible. If you do that, then you don't have to use as many Royal Ghosts. And in this raid, we looted almost the same as in the last raid for a raid quotient of 12,240, which is loot that we raided per troop space. Now this is the third attack in our farming session, and I want to show you the fallacy of thinking that storages are always worth going after. Sometimes they are, and in this case I saw lots of storages that were on the outside that I assumed were easily accessible, but I want you to look to see how many Royal Ghosts I actually had to use in order to collect the amount of resources that I did. This player has obviously been active. They've been collecting their resources because all the resource collectors are empty. Looks like they collected them recently. They are also being super sneaky by leaving gravestones of previous attackers. And that's about it. That's about all that I can get, at least without using a bunch of troops. So on this attack, we had a raid quotient of 8,626, which is much lower than our previous raids. So going after internal storages is not necessarily worth it. Now here's an example of a base where there are full storages in the center, but we are not going to focus on the storages that are in the middle. We are only going to go after the full collectors. If there had been any storages that were on the outside that I could have easy access to, then I would definitely try to grab them. But because they're second layer, because they're deeper, I'm not going to go after that DE storage. I would have to use a ton of troops to do so. Now, if I was going after DE specifically, then I could funnel and I could send my troops in to try to grab that. And I am trying to upgrade my Barb King. I only have a few levels left, so I'm going to go after these Dark Elixir collectors. But other than that, I'm not going to do anything else. On this attack, we had a raid quotient of 6,806. Man, we're going down. We got to make sure that we're efficient. Efficiency is the key with these Royal Ghosts. Now, here is a base where there are a ton of Elixir collectors. Also, the storages are outside, and if you can find a base like this with full collectors and full storages, that is heaven for any farming raid. But at the start of this raid, I only had 32 Royal Ghosts left, so I want to make sure that I'm as efficient as possible. And again, placing your Royal Ghosts down to where they can gain 2 collectors in one setting, then that is where you're going to have the most success. Again, in this situation, do not worry about going after the storages. If you can look at the storages, you can see that they're empty. The Elixir storages are the easiest to tell that with because they will be full of pink stuff. You can also see that in the gold storages, they'll be full of the gold. But on this raid, we had a raid quotient of 11,835. Doing a little bit better, just a little bit. Being a little bit more efficient. Now, I only have 17 Royal Ghosts left. So I want to make sure that I attack bases in the most efficient way possible, and that's by going after collectors. We've gone over all of this, but one of the negatives with Royal Ghosts that's not a negative with Sneaky Goblins is that Royal Ghosts will attack heroes. Now, they do make quick work of heroes, but if those heroes, for example, as that king, are guarding those DE collectors, then I have to go through the king, make sure that I get the king down first before I can grab those DE collectors. I went ahead and grabbed the one up top. I want to go after the ones on the bottom again because I'm trying to upgrade my king as quickly as possible. Again, only have a few levels left, so that Royal Ghost wants to go after that king. But if you can get a Royal Ghost to target that DE collector before it targets the king, then you can get it down without having to waste a Royal Ghost. This was a super successful raid. We were able to gain a ton of loot. We only have 2 Royal Ghosts left, but on this raid, we had a raid quotient of 6,507. That is a little low, but I consider that successful because I was able to gain quite a bit of DE with that raid. Now, with this raid, I only have 2 Royal Ghosts left, but I also have all my heroes. Honestly, I was going to give up and just go home, just say, it was a successful raid, we did great, but I saw that little eye in the corner, and I thought, if this guy's going to watch me raid, then I want to give him a show. I tried to funnel as effectively as possible. One of my Royal Ghosts got sprung by a spring trap. I used a second Royal Ghost to make sure that I could take down that single target Inferno Tower, and then I put my heroes down. Now, I keep my Wall Wrecker in my back pocket. I normally don't use siege machines, but I do keep it there just in case I want to do something like this. I wanted to funnel my queen into that big compartment, into that big section with all of those storages, and this is another option that you can do. Again, I'm not using that many troops, but I'm using my heroes to go after loot. I did not have to use any of my haste spells in order to haste my Royal Ghosts into any storages or anything like that, so I'm going to save up my invisibility spells so that my queen can get as much as possible, and this is exactly how you do it. Just keep invising the queen. My warden is serving as backup, supporting my queen, destroying everything. Thankfully, my siege machine was able to get in there. That Wall Wrecker was able to go all the way and break through that wall just before the town hall, and my queen is not only able to get all of those storages, but is also able to get the town hall. And booyah to that guy who was watching, whoever it is. Booyah, booyah, booyah with just my heroes. I have to say that it feels pretty good to actually do something with your attack, and all I had were my heroes, and so being able to get this much with just my heroes on this attack felt pretty good. On this raid, we had a raid quotient of 55,372. Now, the reason that it was so high was because I did not use many troops and I only used my heroes. So, as a total, with this raid session, with 2 full army camps, sorry, not full army camps, with 2 full armies, so that was 8 full army camps, I guess if you're really looking at it, we were able to raid a total of over 6.5 million in resources. We, of course, used 600 total troop space for a raid quotient of 10,938. Now it's time to train up 2 full armies and do it all over again. If you like this video, you would probably also like the #1 easiest way to farm in Clash of Clans. Watch that video if you're interested. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We will see you guys next video.